Hi, this is Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to Simply Drawing with Everett tonight, 7:30 p.m. So we're back again. I'm in my studio tonight, and I'm broadcasting live to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, and later on to Instagram. And I'm in the studio tonight with my wife, Gloria.
Hello.
And she'll be monitoring the broadcast and also the chat room. The chat room's on and live, so if you have a question during the broadcast, write me a little message. Get back to you as soon as you can. And also, if you see this video afterward, you can also make a comment in the comments section and the comments below of this video. So tonight what I'm going to do is we're going to do a drawing of a desk lamp. This desk lamp has a little bit of history, but you've seen the picture. Yeah, I wanted to give you a better close-up here because the photograph doesn't truly show you all the details. But this is a vintage tensor desk lamp. You can see the top here. The top's got a different shape, or it's got a kind of a square shape, but it's also got a little curve to it. Okay, it's square, but it's also got curves to it, and it's got these long angled brackets, and going to a base. All right, and the lamp inside is a special lamp that's only for the tensor lamp. So we'll talk about the history of this. I'll get to the drawing. We have time. We'll talk about the history. So let's go over to my drawing table and let me get started on this. Now overhead. Okay. Now a couple of things tonight. We've gone before on. I've done circular programs. I did a cylinder with the lighthouse. We did football last week with an oval shape. Tonight, what I want to do is tackle the idea of drawing angular shapes. So we want to also get angles and shapes and sizes and stuff like that. So the reason I showed you that close up there before I switched to here the photograph, you don't see all the details on there, but. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start down here. Now I've got the photograph here. I can bring it up closer. You can see that's a photograph I showed you. Now there's that little angle up here, a little curve on the top, and the angles going down, and there's a base down here. Of course, the chords and so forth. And I've got it. I put it in my still life setup, and I took a shot of that with the light on. There's a nice little shadow pattern on the wall over here. So we're going to draw. I'm going to draw the lamp, and we're going to also draw the shadow in, and also the walls. Okay, so it'll be a little bit good exercise tonight, and drawing angles and getting this proper shape. So as in always, you do a little bit of sizing. I can see. I'm going to start down here at the base of the lamp, and I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with an angle that I think is pretty good. This angle here looks like about a 45 degrees. I've got a 2B pencil I'm going to start out with. And we'll put a little bit of shading on this also later. This comes down with a slow angle here, this back side. And then look at the angle here, the slope here of the front. And it's about estimating it's about twice as long as it is high. So we'll estimate that, and there's the top edge over here. So we're getting angles now. Okay, angles. And the slope down here is a slope. So I like to get a rough in here, then we can go back and make any corrections on it. And this here has an angle out here to the front bottom. And there's an angle up here. Top. And I get the back side, and this will angle down. Okay. So we want to get it. Remember, a drawing is not exactly a perfect copy of what you're seeing. It's a perception. The perception of what we see, what the eye sees. We're drawing what we see. So we're perceiving the angles, we're looking at the shape and the size. Okay, so I got that base pretty well locked in right there. Okay, if you take a look at that. All right. Then there's a little off and on switch here. Really not. It's only as low and high. What it is, once you plug it in, it goes on, and then you control the lighting by hitting this button here. It goes high and low. Now the first angle is, besides the base, the first angle is the bottom angle, the shorter one here. So we'll get that angle. It goes off. See, I'm going to estimate that. It's pretty steep, and again, that can be modified by. There's a couple of things. I'll go a little more detail this later on when we finish it off here. I want to get the drawing done, and we'll talk a little bit about the history of it. And we've got some. It has an interesting story to it. Okay, so I'll get that part. Let's see. Now the length of that is about the size of this. So I'm looking at this part here. About the size of it. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit higher. You see how I'm comparing sizes? I'm comparing this size here with the size here. And so this size here and this size here. I'm comparing sizes with what's there. Without measuring. That's what you do. When you do a drawing, you do a comparison. And you draw what you see and compare it with something else that you see. Okay, this angle here now is goes up pretty steep. It's a little bit more than 45. It's almost 45. No, it's about almost 45. We can use 45 as a starting point. I think that's good enough. Get up here, get up this size. Now the size of that angle there, of that arm, looks to be about a little more than twice of this. A little more twice. Again, that's not significantly important to get it exact. We're just getting a likeness. And tonight we're also drawing angles of the shapes. Straight lines. This part up here is a little section that connects, a little connector there. Then we have the lamp itself. And this angle is pretty steep. That's a very steep angle. Comes down about like that. Get the size of that. And this angle here is 90 degrees with this. Now here's that little curve I saw on the top of the lamp here. A little size there. Let's see. That's about right. And it'll come down about there. Has an arc to it. And then this goes off. That's about almost 45 degrees. It's not the same angle as this, but it's off to this side. Now there's like a little edge here that's straight in, and this part curves down now. This curves down. This side of it. Remember it was a square shape on the shade. This goes back. This angle goes up. This is kind of square up the top here. And then this has a little curve here. This has this outer curve here, the back curve. Okay. So now we'll just check the. Now we're going to check the angle, check the shape and the angles now. Okay, I brought that down. So double check the angles here. We got the shape here. I like that. This angle. This angle over here. Checking all the angles. This one here, I could probably make it a little bit sharper. Not too much. this angle here at the bottom. Okay, I like that. This base will connect into the bottom here. And we have a connector here. On up, let's see. Oh, let's see, check this angle here. Yeah, it's okay. We have a connector up here. And the lampshade itself, it's got a square up here, and it has a little angle. And an angle here. And that square will have another little edge, little curve angle here, a little curved side right here. And then it goes up. And then it has a curve on this edge. Let's go straight up here. Okay. All right. I think I've got the size I like. Okay. All right. Now we're going to do a little shading now. Okay. Now I'm using a 6B pencil, which is pretty. You know, 6B is the how much graphite, how much carbon is in the pencil. So the higher the number, this is number 6B. It starts out with a 1B, 2B, up to 6 Bs, or actually I have some 9 Bs. But the level of how much carbon is in the lead, how much lead is in the pencil, the darker it is. The 6 Bs get darker as the higher you go, a higher angle. So a 6B is pretty dark. So I'm going to darken it in pretty good. And as long as this is a black shape here, shape size, I'll make this a little bit thicker here. A little bit thicker, because this base is a little bit wider than the base is wider than the neck over. This is the neck and there's the base. I'll call it the neck and the base. I'm giving it names. I don't know what the names are. I'm just making them up as I go along, just for description. I'll shade this part in nice and dark. This happens to be metal construction here. This little metal. And this part here actually connects into the bottom. It doesn't matter about that. It's just the way it hits the base. Now the base, I'm going to go ahead and draw. I'm going to go ahead and shade in this area here, the base. And I can use, I prefer when I'm shading, use the side of the lead. It covers the area much better when you do that. And on the top, I'm going to use a different angle. So, do the top side. And then we'll get the front plate. And I'm going to leave the switch, little switch block, I'll leave that a little bit lighter. And the switch itself has got a little switch on it, so I'll make that dark. I'll leave the other part open. Okay. Now there's a wire comes out of the back, and we'll just go ahead and put that over here like this. Just kind of indicate there's a wire connects to the just standard 120 volt connection. It draws about about 60 amps, something like that. It's a nice bright little light. Okay, now we'll go up here to the top, and we'll start out with the top. We'll do the square first up here at the top, square top, and we'll get the other side. And the round one, in a rounded section here, I'm going to use like the rounded strokes to emphasize that curve. So I'm using rounded marks here. For shading. And the same way over here. Use round edge, follow the shape of the curve with a dark pencil. Okay, now let me shade this in now. I'll start with the angles here. this first big angle, and there's a small angle, the small arm here, the extension of the arm, the base, and shade in the base structure of the lamp. And this will all be dark because it's in the photograph there, everything was black. So it makes it a lot simpler to go ahead and just darken it all in. I'm going to leave a couple white edges here just to indicate the dimension a little bit, or the shape of it. And when you're drawing something, you have all the freedom in the world to draw any way you see fit. Okay, now we'll get this curve on the lamp. This lamp has quite a history. When I graduated from the Naval Academy and joined the Marine Corps, and I had this lamp in my office at home for studying, my study lamp. So I've had this lamp in my possession. I've traveled all around the world, and I've had this lamp with me wherever I went. It folds up into a nice little compact size, so it's easy to ship and move. So it served my purposes very well. But I haven't used this for a long, long time, because I have other lamps that I use now, but I haven't been able to give it up. And I'm glad I didn't, because I saw this in my studio desk, on my studio desk the other day, and I said, well, I want to draw that and also show you the angles and shapes and so forth. Okay, now let's draw the room structure here. Well, this is my box that I have here. So this shape here goes out. The corner here goes right up here, and it just goes above. There's a corner of the box. This is my light box where I have my still life displays. I display my still life here and take pictures of it and etc., which you've seen. You've seen some of them in the past if you've seen my videos. I use this for my still life setups. So that's the structure of the box. It's got two walls in the base. Now let's draw in the shadow. This is interesting. Now we'll start down here at the bottom, and I see a shadow coming out of here at the bottom because the light was coming over on the left side. And it goes up here just about like that. Now I'm going to make the shadow much lighter than the body itself. Remember, the shadow is just a shadow. It's not as dark as the object. And I'm going to come across here. Again, I'm drawing angles now, even in the shadow. The shadow has angles. And this here now goes up the wall, and it's going to follow pretty well the shape. It's going to follow the shape that's cast shadow on the wall here. On my shadow box is right there. It's going to go about just a little bit below this elbow here, and then it's going to go up to the right. I'm going to use a very light shadow. I'm barely touching the pencil. I'm using a 2B pencil here because it's lighter lead and not much pressure on the pencil. Just enough to get the shadow pattern. And then this now when it gets to this corner here now, it has another little shift. You see when the shadow here and it hits this vertical. When the shadow is on the ground, on the flat surface, it's a certain angle. But when the shadow hits a vertical surface, it's going to change shape and size and direction. This will go along pretty well. And then when it hits this wall here, the shadow changes again. The angle changes again. So it's very interesting to write Shadows are always interesting. This comes out here, and then the shadow comes right along the edge here. And see the shape here, it gives the edge of the shadow. Shadows tell you a lot of things. Some shadows tell you can show you the shapes also. It helps define the shapes. It shows one edge here now with that rounded edge. And the back edge doesn't show up as well because it's a little bit flatter based on the angle of the light. Okay, then I'll shade this in with a 2B pencil. Much lighter. It's darker than this down here, but it's not as dark as the object itself. So it's something you just have. When you look at shadows and values, it's a good lesson there. Also, is when you draw shadows or values, different changes. Study how dark it is and how light it is compared to something else. And that's the only way you can ever. That's the only way you can ever. You got to make comparisons all the time. So when I'm drawing, I'm comparing angles, I'm comparing sizes, comparing shapes, here I'm comparing the value. Now I think what I'll do is I'll try to go in a little bit darker now and make this really is really dark. So I'll go in with another layer of this pencil, this 6B. Another layer on that to make it much darker. There's a little highlight here on this edge, so I'll leave this edge a little bit lighter, so there's a little highlight showing up on the edge here. Just a little detail. These are sharp corners. And I add a little more value here. This is really dark, black. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll use the 2B pencil now on the shadow. So I'm going to just do a little bit of shading with a stump. What that'll do, the stump will blend that pencil mark into the paper surface and smooth out the mark, smooths out the pencil marks. Just a light pressure, just enough. And I'm looking at the angles. This angle changed here. That's an interesting angle here. It comes in and it hits this other surface and it changes the angle. And it goes on up over here, and then we come back to this shadow on the far wall, or the right wall of this shadow box. Now, shadow boxes are very easy to build. It's just a square, and it's really half a square, what it is, two sides and a bottom. And then you can use that as a location to put your still life in, and then take photograph, put a light on it, and then use photographs to capture your scene. So it's a nice little inexpensive way to have that. Now with one down here, I want to just to show off the edges of this box. A little bit darker than the shadow, the edge is. I don't have to show that, but I'd like to just point out the shapes I'm using here. And this size over here, we can just make a little more definition of the corners, edges. Okay, now let's take a little gander now at the photograph and the drawing, and I'm checking the angles. I think down here this should be a little darker the box is a little darker than the shadow, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little more graphite down here against the shadow. If you look at the contrast here between this and that, the value of the shadow versus the color of the base. So I make that a little bit darker so it shows up, and this here will be a little bit darker over here. I'm comparing the darkness, the value of the box or base with the value of the shadow. I'll make sure this is a nice sharp edge down here. These are all sharp edges. Makes it look like a structure when you do that, okay? Edges are very important when you draw something and make the edges. The edges are very important to define what the object is, if it's hard or soft. In this case, this is a hard edges because it's a hard, it's a metal object, so it's got to have hard edges. And the shadows are soft. Here, the shadows are soft because the light was very soft. The only sharp edge on the shadow is up here on the wall. And what I may do is just sharpen it just a little bit up here. That's the only sharp edge in the shadows right here, and not much sharper. Just to give it a little different value change right there. Okay. All right. So I'm going to double. I like everything that happened. I like that happened. I'm checking the values. I like the angles. I give myself an A+. I'm the demonstrator. I'm the professor, so I can give it whatever value I want. I give myself an A+. A thumbs up. So if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. Okay. So let me go back to the over the other camera. And we're going to talk about the lamp a little bit more. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about. I got a few more little stories here. Not stories, but okay. So this is a lamp. You saw that's what it's a picture of. And this is the little switch. The switch is just not on and off. It's got low and high. So it's plugged in, and then you go from the low light to high light. In other words, the highlight is very bright light, because that tensor, that bulb is very bright. Okay, but you can lower it a little bit by putting it on the low. Okay. Now the thing with it, if you noticed here, in fact, I just found it myself. I haven't looked at it for a while. Right here on the top, there's a little wrench. See, there's a little wrench here. Now, what I did, I put a piece of tape over it so I wouldn't lose it. But there's a little wrench there that I've taped here to the top. Now what is that for? Well, if you'll notice here on the connections, this one right here, for example. If you look at the connections, you'll see there's a little one. There's a 5-sided. That's a pentagon. It's a five-sided wrench, and what that does, that you can loosen or tighten these edges or tighten these connections by this little wrench. And there's one down here at the bottom. There's a set of screws down here on this side. There's a set of screws here, and there's another set of screws at the top up here. So 1, 2. There's 3 sets, and that little wrench is what you use to tighten up the or loosen those little connectors. Very interesting. That's an old style lamp, I'll tell you. Now what I found, I went on the internet and I printed off. Let me take you back to the overhead camera, close up again. I printed off a sheet of this. I went on. I looked up Tensor Desk Lamp, and what I found on the web on the website. This happens to be a vintage Tensor Desk Lamp, which means this is old. This is an antique. Okay, and I've had it for a long time, so I know it's old. I know it's old, but it still works, and it has the dimensions. But down here, I think they use these in this particular printout I have here. I think they use these for stage decoration on a table or whatever. So if they had an old style situation, they wanted to use a vintage stamp of that particular year, then what I see here, they rent this for, this is for rent. You can't buy it. You rent it for $30 a week. So that's just interesting. So you could rent this old lamp online for $30 a week. You can't buy it though. It's a vintage. So that's the story of my desk lamp. And this is a good friend of mine I've had for a long time. But now you can see the angles on it on the top. I wanted you to show that. So you see the highlight there and see the different angles on the side and so forth. Okay, so I really enjoyed drawing that tonight. It brought back a lot of memory. I've used that lamp for years and years and years, and it paid off a lot of time. I had to change the light bulb a couple times, but other than that, maintenance was easy. So next week I'll be back at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another fun drawing. You can join me then. Also, we'll be back on Thursday at 2 p.m. with Everett Watercolors for a watercolor demonstration. And on Sundays, I put out anyone can draw with one line only. And that comes out on Sunday. And you might enjoy watching that also. If you're subscribed to my channel, then you'll be notified of all the videos and all the things that are on YouTube or Facebook, wherever's out there. So usually YouTube, you'll find me, Everett Watercolors on YouTube. And you can look me up. So if you're watching this for the first time, give me a thumbs up and a like. I appreciate that. So until next week, you all stay safe. It's a beautiful weather out there, so if you have time to get out and draw and paint, then do it. Okay. EverettWatercolors.com. On YouTube, if you go to YouTube, you can find me at Everett Watercolors Art Group on YouTube, on Facebook, excuse me. That's a group I have on YouTube, on Facebook, excuse me. Keep getting that mixed up. And then you can, if you do a drawing right here, if you did a drawing here from this program, then you can share that on that particular Facebook channel. So until next week, we'll see you, and you all stay safe. Until then, bye.